I often think about who my favourite Always Sunny character might be, and each time I just can't seem to choose. I genuinely think each member of the gang brings something of equal value to the show. Danny DeVito was the final piece to a truly complete puzzle when he revived as Frank in Season 2. I think this is why fans of Always Sunny hail his addition as when a true stride was hit. So, while it's difficult to choose the best character, I'm interested in exploring who might be the most important. And for this, I'm going to look outside of the gang. Who is it that helps feed into this symbiotic ecosystem? In an episode of their new podcast, Glenn, Rob, and Charlie had just rewatched Season 1, Episode 6, The Gang Finds a Dead Guy. The podcast provides some extremely insightful details about the writing and filming process. And in this episode, they highlight a detail that became one of the cornerstones of the show.
Also, the first time it feels like we have one of those scenes that we then went to the well and continue to go to the well because it's so fun, of the two characters sitting across from some authority figure.
Right.
Yes.
And trying to do something ridiculous.
Right. You're talking about the museum curator.
Yes.
We're
Yes.
trying to sell the Nazi uniform
Yes.
Right.
and profit off
And
it.
that,
And not picking up on the cues and just sort of like barreling through it. And yeah.
So, my nomination for the title of Most Important Character is every authority figure that the gang encounter. While the gang are at the very heart of the show, the contrast provided by these authority figures is crucial in highlighting just how ridiculous them and their schemes are. In this scene that Glenn, Rob, and Charlie are referencing, we see a glimpse of what essentially became a template for future scenes and episodes. Mac and Charlie are attempting to sell a Nazi uniform to what is presumably the manager of a history museum.
How can I help you?
We are going to make your day today, sir.
Is that right?
We've gotten our hands on a little something that we like to think is an important part of human history and needs to be in this museum.
They begin by telling the man they are going to make his day. Already, they have kicked off with what makes these scenes so funny. They have completely misjudged the entire situation. They are not trying to con this man into buying the uniform. They genuinely believe what they are doing and proposing is awesome. Despite how morally corrupt the gang are, this type of scene is an excellent example of why they are so oddly endearing and redeemable. They are just so unbelievably stupid. The manager proceeds to tell them how wrong it is that they are even in possession of it, let alone trying to profit off the murder of millions of people. There's an awkward pause in which, for most people, the penny would have dropped and the message would be received. But not for Mac and Charlie.
In profiting off the murder of millions of innocent people.
How much will you give us for it?
The scene ends, and so begins a pattern that repeats itself season after season. The most important function of the surrounding cast in a sitcom is to bring out the best in the comedy of the main cast. Nothing needs to be inherently funny about these people, and rarely are these people sitting across the table from the gang funny at all. The contrast they bring provides so much more net comedic value than being funny themselves ever possibly could. This dynamic can be seen in The Office. Michael Scott is so outrageously oblivious to social cues that, much like the gang, he needs the contrast of people in complete disbelief about his actions. David Wallace would perhaps be the equivalent authority figure for The Office. Characters like David Wallace need to have a near unrealistic level of patience to even allow these scenes to take place. Of course, they have license to bring their own inherent comedic value, but their primary function is to amplify the words and actions of those around them.
It's pretty realistic.
We had to pay for it. It cost us $3,500.
$5,300 for a dummy?
Wow.
Identifying which characters are producers of comedy and which are facilitators is such a difficult but crucial process. A process that Always Sunny identified from the very beginning and maintained throughout 15 seasons of the show. In fact, there are entire episodes structured around this format. In season 11, there is a two-part story, The Gang Goes to Hell, dedicated to the gang going toe-to-toe with the ultimate authority figure themselves, God. At the end of the second episode, the authority figure is revealed to not be God, but instead just an insurance adjuster collecting a report of their experience on the boat. What is so brilliant about this ending is that while we were under the impression the gang were speaking to God at the gates of heaven, they were wrong too. They thought they were speaking to the police. This reinforces the gang's inability to detect social cues, much like in Season 1 at the museum. Intelligence can only be measured with perspective and scale. The gang's stupidity is revealed by these authority figures, and that's what makes them so integral to the structure of the show. So, while I can never truly say who the best or who my favourite character is, I stand by my statement that these authority figures are the most important. I'm so glad Rob, Glenn and Charlie spoke about this aspect of the show on their podcast. It's evidence that they are aware of why their show is funny. It's one of the reasons the show has enjoyed such longevity and continued success. While the show lacks premise, it is abundant in formula. A formula that has been trusted for 17 years, and hopefully many more to come.